Hi, I'm Eric from longboxreview.com, and this is The Gutters, my audio journal. And today I'm going to be talking about some stuff that happened basically the end of February through March. And I'm going to start off with some sad stuff, for me anyway. And then I'll go back and talk about a wonderful trip I had with my wife previous to that, and then some things after this bad news, which is my father died at the beginning of March, and been dealing with that for the last almost 2 months now. He was 77. His name was William Everett Trussell, and technically, he was my stepfather, but he came to live with my family in 1980, the summer of 1980. I remember it very distinctly because my siblings and I had just got back from spending time with our father. Technically, Bob is my adoptive father. That's why I have the last name Isaacson. And so we arrived, and there's this guy, and it's in summer, and we didn't have air conditioning back then in the house. And he's not wearing a shirt. He's balding, beard and mustache. He's wearing these big glasses. And I don't know, describing him now like this, I hadn't really thought about my impression of him back then. I just have this memory of him. But, I should say my impression of him was that he was, I don't know. It's weird, because what I know of him, what I found out later, because he worked with horses. He helped train horses for a while. He did a lot of different things, actually. And he told me a lot of stuff in the last year or so about his past and his life, things he never told us about before. And he genuinely surprised me about some of these things. He stole a car once, things, things like that I really appreciate him telling me. But anyway, like I said, he came to live with us. He and my mom got together then, and then he married my mom in February 14th, actually, which is also the birth day of my mom's mother. They got married in 1981. I walked my mom down the aisle, and my brother Rod was the best man, and my little sister Dawn was the flower girl. And then I was 11 when Bill came to live with us, and he really became my father. My adoptive father, Bob, was, we would go spend time with him. But as time marched on, he had very little to do with me in particular. Maybe he felt threatened. He felt that Bill was taking his role in my life. I don't know. Or maybe he was just incapable of being a good father. Unlike Bill, who was there for me to help me through some things, both emotionally and financially. We didn't always get along. We both had very strong opinions about things. He pissed me off a few times, but only a few times. But for the most part, I have always looked back on my relationship with my father, Bill, as a very strong and positive one. And he helped me become the man that I am to this day. And, when I talk about my father, when people ask about my family and I talk about my father, I'm talking about my stepdad, Bill. And he's not going to be there for me anymore. And that's, well, So anyway, I've been dealing with that, with the grief of it. And then there's also the financial part of it that I'm working through now. But yeah. So, if you still have your father around, this is your obligatory reminder to, maybe go call or visit with them and tell them how much you love them. But before all that, I did want to talk about a wonderful trip that my wife and I took to San Juan Island near Seattle. This was to be our celebratory post-retirement trip. So we both retired, and I talked about this in the previous Gutters episode. At the end of 2024, we took, we took. I don't want to pick on my wife here. She told me that she was going to decompress for the month of January, and so I did a little bit of that, but I also started cleaning my office. I talked about this in the previous Gutters episode. Anyway, we wanted to take a little trip, just the two of us together, to celebrate the fact that we were now retired together, and we chose San Juan Island, which is part of the San Juan Islands. Like I said, near Seattle. So we drove to Seattle, boarded a ferry. First time I think I've ever been on a ferry with our car. And we arrived at Friday Harbor and stayed there at a B&B. And we were there for, I think, 5 days, something like that. We ate at nearly every restaurant that was open, because in late February, there's not a lot going on San Juan Island. A lot of restaurants were either not open or they were open only on the weekend. And we arrived on, I think, Monday evening. We had one really great meal at the Coho restaurant and a few more that were just kind of okay. Various brew pubs that were there. The fish and chips at the bait shop were pretty good. And I will tell you that the Salty Fox had the best coffee that I tried there. So if you go to San Juan Island, I highly recommend those three places. There was another restaurant that had the dinner was okay, and I don't remember the name of the restaurant now. The food was okay, but man, they had this dessert that was delicious, and I wanted to go back and get more, but we never made it. We did spend a day shopping. There was a wonderful secondhand bookshop, which was up the road from where the ferry queue starts. So again, I don't remember the name of the secondhand bookshop now. We did Kitra wanted to, so the B&B offered these other experiences. One of which was, that you could pay for, that they partnered with these other places in town. And one of those was a cooking class with the chef Tim at the Coho restaurant. And so before we had that really great meal at the Coho restaurant, we went, that afternoon, and Chef Tim showed us how to make pasta, various kinds of pasta. And oh my God, it was so good. The ways that he showed us to make, I think it was like 3 different kinds of pasta dishes, and all of them delicious, which caused me the very next day to go order an attachment to our mixer, KitchenAid mixer, to press pasta. So anyway, we haven't done that yet, but we're going to. One of the other experiences was a couples massage at Lavandera. And if you happen to go to Lavandera for such a massage, ask for Lauren. She was great. And I believe she was either from Australia or New Zealand. I'm not sure, but it was wonderful hearing her talk as well. We drove around the island, admired the coastline, and we even saw a Highland cow in one place, not on the coast, but when we were driving through part of the island. And we tried to go back and see it again, and it wasn't around. So, and we just like Highland cows ever since our trip to Scotland. And then there was one thing, it was really weird because all the places I would go to, I'd see all these things, these little tchotchkes and whatnot for foxes. And include, I mean, I just mentioned, the Salty Fox, and they had some hats and t-shirts with different fox illustrations on there. I actually bought a hat because I loved it so much. And then we were at a different place, and they had again some fox stuff. And I finally just said, "Hey," I asked the person at the counter, "What's with foxes here?" I've been seeing them all over town, and she said, "Well, there's some foxes on the northwest side of the island, which we drove by, but we didn't go into the state park area." Anyway, which that was a lost opportunity because I love foxes. I watch so many fox videos on Instagram. I just think they're so cute. Like I said, I think we were there for 5 days, but we decided that 5 days were too many because there just wasn't a whole lot to do. We enjoyed it, but we decided that 3 days was probably good enough, at least at that time of year. So if you go to San Juan Island in late February, don't stay to more than 3 days. Your mileage may vary, however. And then at the end of the month of March, I went to the Comic Geek Speak 20th anniversary event in Reading, Pennsylvania. I flew out there all by myself to go to this thing, and it was a wonderful time. I got there, I went to the Golden Eagle meetup, get together Friday evening, and got to see Peter, of course, Shane Pants was there, Brian Deemer. I think that was all of the geeks that were assembled at Golden Eagle Comics. But then Mike Atchison was also there. And he was actually the first person that I greeted, or he greeted me. And it was so great because Mike and I actually, for one of the days, I think it was Saturday. Yeah, Saturday of the event, basically, we drove around together. We went to breakfast at the Shady Maple because it was the Feast of the Pants. And I met some other individuals along the way. At Shady Maple, at the Golden Eagle Comics meetup, at the event itself, and like I said, then after Shady Maple, then we Pants recruited us to help set up the venue for the event before it officially started, and so I helped put out tables and tablecloths and hang the CGS Super Guy banner, things like that, and just whatever I could help with. And I took a bunch of photos, as things were progressing, and gave those to Peter, to use if you wanted to show other people the event. And we also got together at a wonderful brew pub that I am forgetting the name of now, because I didn't write it in my notes like an idiot. That was great. That was probably the most fun I had for, much of the trip. Just hanging out, drinking beer, and just chatting with people. We had a large group that first night because we went there twice or 3 times. It was at least twice. And, it was just great. But back to the Saturday event, it started up and people were coming and going throughout the day. I tried to buy something from everybody. Unfortunately with Peter, there was only one thing I really wanted to get, and he's like, I just take it. So thank you, Peter, for that. I didn't buy much. And part of the reason why was that I didn't have much room in my luggage. I brought one bag, one carry-on bag, and that was it. So whatever I bought during that weekend, I had to take with me, which was complicated by the 20th anniversary poster or print that Charlito did, and which was unveiled at the Saturday event. And I didn't have, or I was very concerned that I was not going to be able to put that print in my carry-on. Mike had an idea, though, of getting some cardboard and placing the print in the cardboard, which I did. We asked the venue, "Hey, do you have any boxes that you've thrown away that we can use?" And so I was able to bring it home. It had a little ding in one corner, so there's that. But regardless, a wonderful print by Charlie Doe. If you go look, I'm sure if you go look at the CGS social feeds, or just go to the website, I bet they have a picture of that there. It's wonderful. And I heard on a CGS episode post this event that they are going to provide that for sale. Brian Deemer's, I think, brother. Is that right? Also printed up a 20th anniversary T-shirt, and then he also had a CGS, the CGS logo shirt that I didn't realize was going to be there, so I bought one of those. He was selling hats with the CGS logo on it. I think maybe those will also be on sale. If you're curious, if you couldn't make it and you want some of that merch. But yeah, I thoroughly enjoyed that day, mostly just because I sat around talking with various people. And, just talking comics, talking about CGS. One gentleman, his name was Kyle. He had very heartfelt things to say about the CGS guys and what they meant to him. And I was pretty moved by that as well. And considering that, and I told this to Shane and then later to Peter, considering what happened earlier that month with my father, I really needed that. I needed that trip. I needed to be surrounded by, my CGS friends. Even though, I've met most of them at least one time. Peter and I obviously talk for the Legion Project, but I feel like these guys are my friends because I've been listening to them since 2006. And it was just lovely. It was a tonic for the soul, if you will. And I thanked them for providing that opportunity for me to do that. And I want to personally thank Peter. I already did, but I want to thank him here for suggesting getting together at the CGS studio to record the intro to our Legion Project episode 50. So I got to sit in the chair, use the microphones, and talk with Peter about the Legion Project up through episode 50, and various things about what that means to us, and the fact that we were doing it there, as I told Peter. It was like a dream come true because I've always wanted to visit the CGS studio, and I missed my opportunity at the 10th anniversary event because I got there too late, and to record there I've always wanted to do that, and so that I really appreciate that Peter made that happen. So anyway, look out for episode 50 coming later this year, because we still have to record. At the time of I'm recording this episode, we still have to record the rest of episode 50. So, okay. With live stuff out of the way, I wanted to switch to, some lighter stuff as well. The entertainment part of the Gutters, starting with the TV part. My wife and I watched The Diplomat, 2 seasons of The Diplomat, which is on Netflix, I believe. It's about the person who is assigned to Great Britain as the U.S. diplomat, but who is being groomed to take over the vice presidency eventually. And her husband, also a former diplomat, who causes lots of problems for her. And so it was just lots of great, it's very much like the West Wing. Did I talk about this episode or this show? I think I did. I think I talked about this on the last the Gutters episode. But anyway, we finished the 2 seasons, and then the cliffhanger ending involving the president and what that means for Kate, our diplomat, has me wanting the next season now. Give it to me now. Maddie and I have finished Doctor Who's season 1 with Eccleston, and now we're on to Tennant's first season. And so she brought up the idea of us talking about that on an episode. So that's in the works. So keep an eye out for that. If you like some Doctor Who talk on the Long Box Review comic book podcast feed. And then let's see, finally, my wife and I were able to finish the Six Nations rugby tournament. And unfortunately, so at the time I wrote these notes, which were days and days ago, I wrote, my team is not doing well. My team being Ireland. And I said, France seems poised to win it. And spoilers, if you haven't, because this all ended like last month as I record this back in March. And France won it. It was France, England, and then Ireland. So, and then Scotland, I think, was 6th. So I think it was Italy, Scotland, and then Wales. Is that 6 teams? Anyway, so hopefully next year, given all the changes with the Ireland team from last season, this is a building season, and I hope that they can, get a stronger team back to perform a little better than they did this year. So. On to movies. I did watch Ant-Man and Wasp: Quantumania. I will say the best part of this was the Bill Murray surprise appearance, and I'll leave it at that. Maddie and I watched Bright, which is the Will Smith, fairy ogre in the real world cop drama, to which I will say, go watch Alien Nation instead. I also watch with Maddie because she claims to like Shakespeare. And so I happen to have the Zeffirelli version of Romeo and Juliet from, 67, 68? I don't know. I adore the film. I think it's great. Finally, with movies, for now anyway, I watched John Wick Chapter 4. And oh my God, I have been so excited to watch that film. And then I watched it. I will say all of the artsiness of the previous films, just seemed to be gone. That was the one thing I loved about the first film, and the second one as well. The third one to some degree it was so beautiful to look at. The cinematography was just wonderful, despite the ultra violence and the unrealistic gun fu and all that stuff. But there was an art to it, and I just felt like this was by the numbers, way too long, 20-minute segments of gun fu every once in a while for 2.5 hours. It just seemed like, and with Keanu Reeves too, everybody just seemed tired and uninspired. So it was unfortunately not, maybe they should have stopped at 3, but at least the story itself is done with. Although there is a spin-off movie that I saw the trailer for that I actually want to watch. So we'll see how it goes. But anyway, all right. Finally, for this Gutters episode, I'm going to talk about some podcasts that I've been listening to, or I want to mention David Tennant does a podcast with is back. Well, it's now over with. The season is now over with. But in case you've missed that and you like David Tennant, if you're a Doctor Who fan, a Tennant fan, you need to go listen to his interview with Russell T Davies, which I found very interesting. But it's not just the Doctor Who-ness of it. The people he has conversations with it's just so much fun and insightful and interesting, and he does a really good job. He or his assistants, I don't know, but he does a really good job on air to talk to these people. I really enjoy it. I mentioned CGS before. They released that 2000th episode for their 20th anniversary. And it was a live chat with listeners, which I had intended to be a part of. Unfortunately, it was at around the same time that I was dealing with things and just didn't have the capacity to be involved. There is a new podcast from Alex Jaffe, who does the 52 Pickup podcast that I've mentioned before. This is called DC Action News, and it's Alex as a newscaster in the DC universe telling us all about what's going on for that week or two, I forget now, of events in the comics that DC is publishing, which I think is a really fun way to give everybody a synopsis of major things that's going on in the DC lineup. Another show that just started up from Al Sedano's Resurrections feed is That Giffen Show, where he and co-hosts, I'm not sure, are going to be looking at Keith Giffen comic books. And so they had their first episode in April to coincide with the JS April event from the Fire and Water Network podcast, which a reminder, if you missed out on that, because this episode will drop after that whole event is done, go back and search out that hashtag JS April and or go to the Fire and Water Network .com and find the listing for everything, which includes, of course, my show, which I talked about, All-Star Comics number 36, which is previous to this episode as well. And then finally, there is a show that I think I'm done with, but I don't want to be, and it's called Tangle. I heard about this on, was it This American Life? I don't remember now. But anyway, Tangle is a newsletter and a podcast that takes a look at the news from a political perspective, talking about the events and then what the left is saying and what the right is saying about these things. And then we get the main host, Isaac, what his take on it is. And what he does is he claims that he is, neither Democrat or Republican. He tries to ride that middle ground as a journalist, but he provides his take on these things. And the reason first I started reading the newsletter, and then I discovered, they have a podcast. I'll just listen to that instead because it's basically the same kind of content. Is that whatever podcast it was, the episode where they talked about Tango, it was from the perspective of a couple who have very differing political views to the point of they can't talk about politics, and it was causing strife in their marriage. And somehow, I forget now, but they found Tangle, and through that, they are able now to have a dialogue that doesn't end in a fight. And I thought, wow, that's powerful. I want to see what this is about. And while I don't always agree with Isaac's take on things, it has opened my eyes about some things where I have decided over the years that anything from the right is bad, and anything from the left is better than anything from the right. It's not good necessarily, but it's better. And I need to rethink that. And Tangle is helping me untangle that complex feeling about politics that I have. Well, I guess it's not really complex. It's more, I've tried to oversimplify it. And that's not necessarily the best way to go about living in this world. Because I live in Idaho. And we are a deep red, ultra red, almost crimson state. And basically anything that I believe in and want doesn't happen in this state. I keep voting. It seems to be a worthless act, but I do it anyway, more as an act of defiance, I guess. I don't know. But also in the hopes that things will change, that the political spectrum will shift. That hasn't happened. In fact, over my lifetime, Idaho has gotten even deeper red. But my point is, you have to, you still have to interact on a personal level with people that have very different political viewpoints than you. Even though I live in a tiny blue dot in a very deeply red state, it's a community, it's a university community surrounded by farmers. And not that all farmers are, Republicans, but the chances are they are. The general feel of it is, there's a lot of tension in our town because of these differing political views. But you still have to go to the grocery store. You still have to use the building supply store. Things like that. So dealing with people on a personal level, regardless of what they feel, and just like with them, regardless of how I feel, at least we can be civil towards one another. And at some point, maybe Tangle will help me get over my bias and try to reach out and resolve these deeply divided ideas, and hopefully come to more of a consensus instead of, no, it's my way or the highway, which is kind of the political landscape these days, especially from the right. But also, I will say from the far left, because they're is just as intolerant as the Republicans are, and you can't get anywhere like that. I mean, assuming, of course, that we have anything resembling a democracy in the United States over in the next 5 or 10 years. So I guess we'll see. Wow, this was kind of a darker episode of the Gutters. Anyway, thank you for your patience with me talking about this stuff. It was harder than I thought to talk about my dad. Harder than I thought, and just as hard as I thought, I guess. But anyway, like I said, let the people that you love know that you love them, and don't take anything for granted. And with that, if you had feedback, you know the drill. I'm not going to go through that spiel. I don't feel like it today. Anyway, thanks for listening. I'll talk to you later.